I'm here on the Unplayable Podcast with Glenn Maxwell, who is the latest cricketer to suffer a serious injury after a freak accident. There's been a few among cricketers, unfortunately, over the last few months. Glenn, I mean this question sincerely because sometimes you ask it and it's a bit of a filler. But how are you?
Yeah, it is a strange question because normally you just sort of say, yeah, going well, but it's certainly been a tough week. Spent most of it in hospital, trying to sort of get the pain down and trying to recover. And spent the last, I think it's probably been 3 or 4 days at home, and probably got even tougher. Not being able to have that constant nurse care and constant people looking after you and be able to control the pain side of it. So it's been a challenge, but hopefully over the next week or two it starts to get a little bit easier.
I imagine it would have been tough on your wife, Vinny. Like, is she around to help you, or?
She's been on absolute fire. So my beck and call basically non-stop. It's been really hard work on her. She's obviously still working from home as well. So for her to basically have a full-time job with me and also be able to keep working is just shows there's always a stronger woman behind every bloke, and she's obviously the strong one in this relationship who's been taking such good care of me, and it's probably the start of a long recovery, but she's been a great help to that.
I alluded to off the top around, these kind of freak accidents happening. Johnny Bairstow broke his leg walking to a tee box and he missed the World Cup. Josh Inglis broke his hand on the golf course as well with a 6-iron snapped in his hand. You play more golf than both of those two, I'd safely guess. But this did not happen on a golf course, Glenn. What happened, I think, is the question everyone wants to know.
Yeah, well, pretty much exactly what I said in the initial I suppose release statement. It was so innocuous. I was at a 50th with a couple of my old Fitzroy Doncaster friends. We all had our wives there, and one of my mates, who was also one of my school teachers, we were sort of laughing about something, and I sort of almost pretended to chase him off somewhere. And outside, it was just raining just a little bit, and they didn't really have a grass backyard. They had synthetic grass, and it was only just a small little area just around the corner. And I reckon we both took about 3 or 4 steps out there and both slipped sort of at the same time. I just got my foot stuck a little bit and he fell, unfortunately, at a really bad angle and landed straight on my leg, and it just snapped. Like I heard and felt every part of it. And yeah, it was pretty painful. I was sort of screaming a bit, and he was like, "Please tell me you're joking. Please tell me you're joking." And I was like, and then I just sort of hit this ultimate calmness of like shock. I'm just like, nah, I've just broken my leg. I'm pretty sure both the bones are broken. I don't think I should move. Can you please get my wife? So then, and because it was still really early, wasn't that late. I was on the phone to the doctor trying to work out what I should do, and I was in a pretty clear state at that stage, and I think I was laying on outside. They got out like this mini sort of tent gazebo to sort of cover me from the rain because we were outside, and they didn't really want to move me. Just while we were waiting for an ambulance as well, so there was about a 40 to 50-minute wait of me just laying outside until we sort of made a couple of phone calls to a couple of doctors who advised that it would be okay for me to move, and Vinny went and got my car, drove it around to the front, and 2 of the guys carried me outside and put me in the back seat, and that was one of the most painful drives I've ever had in my life, trying to hold my foot off the ground, and basically on no painkillers as well. So that was quite interesting. It was about a 45-minute drive to the hospital that they recommended, and then as I got to the hospital, the emergency department, I sort of got put in a wheelchair and sort of got to see the doctor pretty reasonably quickly, and then because we ended up getting to the hospital about 11 o'clock, I think. So after all that waiting around and not much happening, and then finally getting there, um, I was expecting to sort of get rushed into surgery as soon as possible, but they sort of said it wasn't as emergency as it possibly could have been, and they put me on a few drugs and painkillers to try and sort of help out. And it was a really long wait. So I was wide awake. I was still just sort of trying not to think about things too much. Um, and then it, it got to about, I think, 3 in the morning, and about 2:30 in the morning. I told Vinny to sort of head home, get a bunch of things, and at least rest up. So at least one of us was in a good state of mind for the next day. And so she went home, got a bit of sleep, and came back early in the morning, and I still hadn't slept a wink of sleep. It got to about 2:30 in the PM, and then I finally went and saw the surgeon, and had surgery. Um, and then after surgery, it was another night of every half hour the doctors were checking in. So I probably didn't sleep for 2 days while I was in agony. So it was a pretty horrible couple of days, those first 2 days. And then but yeah, well, as I said, my wife was unbelievable through it all. She was so calm. Um, she was brilliant.
So you said, I mean, there's a few things to pick up on there, Glenn. Like, maybe first of all, like you said, you knew straight away that it was pretty serious, and that you felt like it had snapped twice, or snapped in two places. Is that kind of what the X-rays showed? What was what did they kind of show up?
Well, I shattered my fibula, so I knew, that one was, I think, the first snap I heard. That was complete. Like, it was snapped in half, but it shattered also through the bone. Um, I think there was a bit of a chip off the tibia as well, but I ruptured all the ligaments on top of my foot, as like in between the both. So it's like the syndesmosis ligaments, and they were all ruptured. So I did a good job of it for such an innocuous thing, and I think this is the frustrating thing about it all. So I've done some dumb things on the field, some dumb things off the field, and I've never even come close to injuring myself or looking like injuring myself. And to do something so innocuously and just it, it's just frustrating, because it's just nothing. It was just a nothing incident. Like the amount of times that I've jumped into a pool and gone, oh, that was probably a bit more shallow than I thought, and not even a scratch, not even a bruise or anything, not even a rolled ankle, and to yeah, just do something that's just nothing, absolutely nothing. It's just a nothing incident. It's just a little bit slippery, and just yeah, all of a sudden there goes a couple of months.
Yeah. And I mean, we're gonna speak a little bit about how you're going, mate. But how's the guy, your former school teacher who's fell on you? Like, how did he kind of feel?
Um, he was probably worse than me the first few days. He was absolutely devastated, and even after the incident, when I was sort of lying in the backyard, and we were just sort of, I was just chatting away to people, trying to sort of distract myself from the pain, and he was beside himself. He was pretty shattered, and couldn't believe something so, as I said, innocuous can sort of lead to um, probably a decent time on the sidelines. And um, a lot of the people that were at that 50th were some of my biggest supporters and some of the biggest helps that I've had in my career. And yeah, they've all been in contact. We've been sort of talking a fair bit this week, and yeah, they're certainly hurting just with me.
Yeah, I imagine they are. And so you said you're kind of in this state of like a clear mindedness almost, that when you first had it, and that you actually didn't kind of feel that much pain. I mean, how long did that kind of take to wear off, Glenn?
Uh, well, it came in and out. So every now and then I'd just feel it. But I was trying to sort of distract myself and not sort of think about my leg and sort of get stuck into a conversation. But as soon as you sort of think about it again or try and move your leg, just the pain was excruciating. And I've probably had that a little bit more over the last couple of days, and um, as I said, it's just a little bit more different when you've only got sort of one person who you're annoying non-stop to try and like get another ice pack or get another pillow to hold your leg up, and yeah, it's been hard work. But as I said, my wife's been unbelievable. She's um, sacrificed a lot of sleep to basically take 24-hour care of me, and I'm very grateful.
So what's the upshot, Glenn? Like how how much time will it take for you to get back on your feet again? How long will it take to get walking, running? I mean, what's kind of been the thing, I guess the roadmap that they've planned out for you?
Oh, I think that's sometimes the hard thing because it's so early on. It's only been a week since I had the surgery, and there's still a lot of steps to sort of go before you can sort of even set out a proper roadmap. And I see the orthopedic surgeon on Wednesday, and hopefully I have a bit of a clearer update of how it's recovered over the first 10 days, and then we can start to work on getting into a swimming pool, doing some walking in the pool, and starting to get some work into it and or some strength into it. But it's going to take a long time. It's still a pretty severe injury, and I know it's sometimes hard to be patient with these sorts of things, but it's one of those things where I've got to be patient. I'm just trying to do the right things as much as I can. So I've been icing pretty much 2/3 of the day most days. So it's been busy days. I'm always finding myself doing something, trying to elevate it, trying to always keep it pretty still. Use the crutches wherever I go, um, and just try and avoid knocking it, avoid trying to put it through any more trauma, and try and take care of it as well as I can. And hopefully, if I can do all the right things, I can make the minimum amount of recovery time, and I can get out there and get back to doing what I love. But yeah, it's still a long way to go. But I'm hoping that if I can do all the right things and tick all the boxes, it can make it a quick recovery.
The physical aspect of it is notable, Glenn. Like the amount of pain that you're in, it's kind of hard to fathom for anyone who probably hasn't been through that. But from a mental point of view, mate, like it's how have you found that side of it, and how do you kind of manage that going forward? Because it's going to be challenging not to be doing the thing you love, right?
Yeah, I think that's probably going to be the hardest part. I think watching. Um, Once the stars go out and start playing, even watching the Aussies at the moment, watching the teams that you've been a part of, been sort of ingrained in for such a long period of time, out there playing without you, it's hard, but it's also I've been injured before. I've been out. I've missed squads. I've had time on the boundary line, so um, I suppose it's okay at the moment because it's only just this series. But I think once the Big Bash starts, it'll probably hit home a little bit harder, and hopefully I can still stay involved, do some commentary, get involved with the team, even just helping out around the group. I'll be trying to do as much as I can just to stay busy and involved. But um, yeah, as I said, I've got to get back on 2 feet first. Got to be able to at least put some weight on my foot and be able to be half useful.
Yeah, yeah. Imagine you're not feeling it at the moment. Is there? I mean, what's the light at the end of the tunnel for you, Glenn? Like, is there a particular series or a tour or something that you think is a realistic possibility as a best case scenario to get back for?
I'm trying not to think too far ahead. I think if I put my mind to something and I don't make it, I feel like that would be probably even more heartbreaking, and it would be hard to, I suppose, get my hopes up for a certain timeline and not quite make it. But I believe if I do everything right, um, and as soon as I sort of get into recovery mode, I'm pretty focused. I'm um, pretty resilient in the fact that I'll do everything I possibly can to get myself right, and whether it is just long days icing, keeping my foot in the same position, whatever it takes, I'll make sure that I do it. And um, it's one of those things that it comes with diet as well, drinking a lot of water, eating the right things, and just trying to make sure you're in the the best place to possibly recover. And um, I'm just hoping that I can do all the right things, and I can see those rewards. I suppose as the weeks go by, it's not going to be an immediate thing where you see the immediate results, but I'm hoping down the track I'll be able to see some positive results, whether that be from the surgeon saying that I'm ahead of schedule or whatever it is, and just not pushing it too hard, being able to sort of keep doing the right things, and being able to build the strength up at different times, and hopefully I'll be back in no time.
Is there anyone else you've spoken to who's gone through a similar injury? Because I mean, I imagine it's not something that happens to cricketers a lot. It's probably more like a footy type injury. Have you been able to kind of pick the brains of anyone who's been through something similar?
Not yet, but I have been sort of planning to sort of head into St Kilda Football Club once I can. I suppose do some stuff like weight bearing, some pull work. I got contacted by Justin Kajitsky, who's working in the Danny Frawley Centre at the moment, who offered up the services of that place to help out with my recovery, and I know a lot of the Saints boys down there, so hopefully when my recovery starts to sort of get into some full swing, I can get down there and I suppose have a chat to a few of the guys there that have been through some pretty traumatic injuries as well, and hopefully learn a bit off them and what they did in their recovery process.
From memory, Cozzy suffered a pretty bad broken leg himself back in his playing career, didn't he?
It's a good question. I know Ben Patton, I think, broke his leg, might have been last year. So I might have a chat to him. He's also a pretty keen golfer, so I remember seeing him on the golf course before seeing him back out in the footy field. So who knows? It might be a good thing for my golf game. I might be able to get a few rounds of golf in. I might be able to throw that into my recovery. So, but yeah, there's just little steps that I've got to tick off on the way to back to playing cricket, and hopefully I can tick those off in a quicker time than normal.
And is it almost a chance to kind of, think about something outside of cricket for a while, like going into St Kilda Football Club and being around people who look at sport differently, who look at life differently? Is it a bit of a chance to expand your horizons a bit?
Yeah, I feel like I've been doing that a fair bit over the last couple of years anyway. It's as weird as it sounds, it's actually probably not the worst time, horrible circumstances, but it's probably not the worst time in my career to have a bit of a break. To sort of, I don't know what the right words are. It's probably revitalize yourself for the back in your career, or I don't know, give yourself that refocus mark. And I think even when I did the injury, I was like, I'm gonna finish my career the fittest I've ever been. I'm gonna make sure that I never have another soft tissue injury again, or whatever it is. I'm going to be so focused on my gym work, and it probably is one of those things it has refocused me a little bit, and I think that's the one sort of silver lining I probably see. I think I don't get injured, and I finish I probably go through the summer, maybe go to the India, and I'm a spare player on that tour, play the one-day series, finish the IPL, and I'm cooked by the end of June, and I'm probably looking at the end of my career a lot sooner, and my body's probably tired and cooked, and the end's probably closer than it should have been at 34. But I think now that I can probably, I don't know, reassess and make sure that the back end of my career I'm fit, strong, healthy, and hopefully in a better state, let's say for the next year's World Cup, and all tournaments going forward, and I can still keep pushing forward and finish my career off on a high, instead of sort of fizzling off and not being able to finish it the way I would have liked.
And you kind of, before the injury, Glenn, you had the comments, I think, that I think a lot of people felt might have been misconstrued in the way they reported, but
they certainly were.
Right. Okay. Well, you can include that in the answer, but to give the listeners context, you spoke a little bit about the pack schedule and the possibility that you were going to lose the World Cup or not make the semi-finals of the World Cup, which hadn't been confirmed at that point and subsequently was. Yeah. So, I mean, tell me about how, if they were misconstrued, what were they, and how do those comments also kind of fit into your mindset?
Well, the question was, do you dwell on not winning the World Cup? And I sort of said, well, you can't afford to dwell because you've got so much cricket coming up, so there's no real time to do it. And I sort of said, it doesn't really matter, but it was sort of more it doesn't matter if you dwell or not, because if you dwell, you've already missed a game or two, you've missed an opportunity to play well for your country. And if you don't dwell, you're focusing on the next game. So when I said it doesn't really matter, that's what I was sort of referring to. So it's up to the individual if they wanted to dwell on it, but there's not enough time to. So when I saw the headlines, I was like, well, they've just made up a headline to a question that's completely different. So that's what that was all about. And but yeah, that's basically when I looked at that and went, well, bugger media, they can go stuff itself. and a lot of players do that, because when they see headlines out of something that gets taken completely out of context, they do get a little bit shy and sort of standoffish from sort of saying exactly what's on their mind or exactly how they feel, because if it gets taken the wrong way, it makes them look bad and it makes them look ostracised from the rest of the team, and sort of saying that's something that's not on the team's radar at all. And I'm not saying for 1 second that we as an Australian team didn't care. At no stage was I saying that, but all of a sudden that's coming out as a headline. I was like, well, that's not true. that's not true at all. We certainly cared. Like, that's all we cared about at that time. We wanted to win the World Cup, but it was sort of taken out of our hands by Finn Allen for the first 4 overs of the tournament and a washed out England game, and all of a sudden, like, we're out and we're gone.
I think there's an element of some parts of the public, and maybe some sections of the media, Glenn, expect a level of almost like performative disappointment, right? Like if you've lost the game, and we want you to show how much this means to you by how devastated you are. And I think, you guys have been have done a pretty good job in explaining that that's not necessarily the best way or how you might process disappointment.
Yeah, and I think if you go so high and so low during the ups and downs of cricket, it's just going to be such a tired run. You're going to be cooked. You're going to be burnt out. You're going to be drained in no time. And we were certainly disappointed that we didn't win the World Cup, but we were also very realistic about why we didn't win the World Cup. It's a quick tournament. T20 can be so fickle. We understand that, and that's why we were so I suppose amped at how we won the World Cup last year. Everything went right for us. Things clicked into place, and you need that to win a tournament like that. I mean, you look at Pakistan; they lost 2 games during the tournament, but still somehow made the final, which is unheard of in a T20 tournament. When you can't make mistakes, and they made 2 of them. They lost 2 games, including losing to Zimbabwe, and the eventual winners lost to Ireland. It's just, teams were sort of afforded mistakes at different times where we probably just weren't. We won the games that we probably should have. Unfortunately, we lost to New Zealand, which was always going to be a tough game, and we just didn't get an opportunity to win the other game, which was against England. So it's just one of those tournaments where it was just really difficult to sort of be so overly shattered, because it felt like we didn't do a whole lot wrong. So to be out of the tournament, it's like, well, it would have been great to win, but it didn't feel like we had enough opportunities to sort of showcase why we're the defending champions, and we want to, as I said, it just would have been so good to play that England game in front of a packed house, decent weather in Melbourne. But that's the risk of having a tournament in October in Melbourne, where the first 4 rounds of Premier Cricket get washed out, and first five. Look, there was always those risks, and unfortunately, we were just a little bit unlucky, and T20 cricket can be a bit like that sometimes.
Let me ask you about some of the red ball stuff, because you did mention the India tour is kind of on your horizons. I know you'd had a couple of sessions with Victoria, right, facing the red ball again, and I'm guessing the Shield game that I don't want to rub this in, mate, but the Shield game that might have been starting this week, was that kind of on your radar before all this?
Yeah, it certainly was, and I think out of all the cricket I was going to miss immediately, this is probably the one that, or the two games that probably hurt the most. I was so excited. Even the couple of sessions I had with Ben Rora, and the Vic side, um, in the couple of days after the last World Cup game, I went back. I was working on different things again, much the same way as Steve Smith was working on different things behind the scenes, and it was just exciting again. There was just a feeling of, I feel like I'm always improving when I'm playing this format. I feel like there's always a space where my technique can get better. There's always an opportunity to, whatever I take from the red ball game, I can take that into my white ball format, at the start of my innings, and become a better starter, a better manipulator of the ball, a better watcher of the cricket ball, whatever it might be. It just feels like I make the biggest strides when I'm working on my red ball game. And even Ben Rora, I spent, I reckon, 10 minutes with him, and he picked up on things that I was working on in the preseason that I might have just gone away from a little bit, just because I was working on a lot of T20 power hitting, and we were so focused, I suppose, on impacting the game and doing different things. And for him to sort of pull me back into that technical mindset straight away, it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed the session and just talking to him about it. And yeah, I think that's probably why these two, missing these two games, is they're going to be hard to watch. I think those two games are going to probably be the hardest to watch. Knowing that they would have been a great opportunity to play red ball cricket again. It's been three years since I played, and yeah, it was something that I certainly put in the calendar early this year, and was looking forward to being involved in.
It's very noticeable, Glenn, that glint in your eye that you get when you speak about red ball cricket. I remember, when we spoke to you after you got called into the Sri Lanka Test squad after that one day in Colombo, and you were glowing, mate. And like, is that even now? Is that one of the things that kind of is going to be driving you over the next few weeks and months?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's obviously there's a time limit, I suppose, on when they're going to announce that squad to India, and to be fair, there's a high chance that I probably won't make it. They're obviously going to have to see me playing cricket. They're obviously going to have to take a big risk if they do take me, but um, I think that's probably why I don't want to sort of set any dates or timelines of when I can get back. Um, but yeah, I would dearly love to be okay for that. But as I said, I'm sort of a slave to how my body recovers, and sort of how quickly I can, I suppose, get the strength back into it and then get back playing cricket again.
You mentioned the BBL as well, and hopefully some commentary might pop up around that, which I think we'd all enjoy. Not as much as you playing, obviously, but maybe the next best thing. Who's captaining the Stars if you can't get on the park for the Big Bash?
It's a very good question. We've got some guys that will put their hands up to do the job, and I think what we've been trying to work on over the last few years is have a bit more of a leadership group, have guys sort of chipping in and helping out at different times. And obviously with COVID last year, we've had different captains. So yeah, there's a few guys. We've got to probably have a meeting over the next couple of days with the staff, and try and nut out a few things this year. But there's a few solid names up there, and whoever does it this year, I'm sure will do a good job.
I imagine Adam Zampa is putting his hand up. Is that fair to say he'd be in the mix?
Yeah, Zamp, Stoin, Bo Webster, Nick Larkin. We've got plenty of experience, I think, in that side. Joe Burns as well. Joe Clark's going to be there the whole season. So we've got some guys that have got some real leadership qualities that can put their hand up and do the job. And even if they don't get the job, we've got leadership to sort of help out at different times. I think having good vice captains as a captain is sometimes just as valuable as having a good captain, and I think that's one of the things I've been really blessed with at the Stars is having those senior guys around to bounce ideas off, to talk about different strategies and tactics throughout the game to help you get the right result for your team. And I hope the guy that does get the job can involve those guys as much as possible, and it becomes a team driven exercise instead of just the captain driven thing. So I'm looking forward to seeing whoever takes the reins and how it goes this year.
Before I let you go, I've got to ask you about your good mate Aaron Finch, who I know is probably weighing things up from an international perspective. I imagine we'll see him in the Big Bash with the Renegades. Have you spoken to him? And what's the with that T20 captaincy? Is it something you've spoken to him about potentially doing yourself?
No, not at all. We haven't really spoken a lot about each other's careers. It's been a bit strange. I think now that he's sort of probably the other side of the bay to me now. We've got a bit of separation. We just text about random things, a bit of golf here and there, but we haven't really sort of spoken about cricket as such. He seems in a really good place at the moment. I think he's looking forward to playing the Big Bash and doing some commentary stuff and probably exploring a bit more of what I'm going to see this year is maybe a glimpse into life after cricket, and who knows, he might make his mind up after that. But yeah, it's going to be completely his decision and his decision alone, because he showed some great signs towards the end of that World Cup. He was hitting the ball like we know Finchy can. I suppose it's a bit of a shame that while we weren't in finals, we all felt like we were starting to peak. We were all starting to hit the ball really well, and unfortunately, we just didn't quite make it.
Thinking about life after cricket, is it? I mean, for him, it's one thing. For you, it's probably something you're doing a little bit more of now that you've got a lot of time to think. Really, is it scary?
Not really. I think I'm just excited. I played. It's actually quite funny. The day before I got injured, I played the Vic PGA Pro-Am, and I absolutely loved every second of it. And it made me sort of think that I'd love to be able to play a lot more of those amateur tournaments. And I suppose once I finish cricket, I'd love to start practicing more, be able to work on my golf game, and maybe play a bit of that. And to get those competitive juices going, I think playing that sort of competitive environment is something I'd really enjoy. And that probably gave me a clearer idea of what I wanted to do. Just to get the competitive juices still going, I probably would like to play a game or two of cricket with my brother back at local cricket at some stage. But yeah, I don't think I'd. I'm not too scared of retirement. I don't think it's something it's gonna. Even if I finish tomorrow, it's not something that's going to scare me too much. I feel like I've got enough in line that I enjoy doing, and enough that I enjoy doing away from cricket that I'll be absolutely fine.
Is going pro in golf like a serious option? Is it something you could get to, or?
No, not pro. I think I'd enjoy playing like the amateur events around the place, and just I think just enjoying that competitive nature of playing golf against people, and um, it's such a great game. It's you versus the course a lot of the time, and I think that's why I enjoy it. You can sort of get in your own head, and you can just do your own thing. Um, it's so peaceful. It's great. Get to play some beautiful courses, and something I've always really enjoyed. So that's probably top of the list. And I love my commentary. I love talking about the game of cricket. I love the different intricacies of the tactics used in different types of cricket. I love watching other games. I was watching the replay of India, New Zealand this morning, and watching probably the most informed player on the planet go about his business. And it's just amazing to watch, but also trying to think in your head how you'd captain against a player like him is something that's always sort of, I think, going on when I'm watching these games. Is I'm always trying to put myself in the under pressure. What would I do in that position? And always is interesting watching.
Probably also need to ask, just so club cricketers who are playing in this competition can maybe find another club if they're coming up against you. Where does your brother play club cricket?
My brother plays cricket at South Belgrave Cricket Club. He's also 9 years older than me, so he's getting really close towards the end. We could end up playing vets together, but I just love to go back and play one or two games with him. I think that'd be really special, and I've got a lot of friends still playing at that club. Guys that I coached when they were 11 and 12 years old who are now captain and coach of the club. So it's amazing how things sort of turn around, and I'd love to be able to give back to them the way they supported me, I suppose, all the way through my career.
Let's hope we see you in action at a slightly higher level before you do end up back at South Belgrave. In the meantime, Glenn, thanks very much for your time, mate.
No worries, Louis. Cheers, mate.